ladies' night. What? And we're going to welcome Sonia, Nicole, Beth, and Angela to the stage. Thank you.
Testing. I think they all work.
Okay. Oh, I got my own. Hey. Okay.
I love you guys.
Love you.
You stay face.
No. That's good right there. Thank you. Hello. Welcome. Hi.
All right, so tonight's topic, we're going to talk about internal dialogue. And maybe we could just first start by saying, what does that mean to you? What do you think of when you hear internal dialogue?
How I talk to myself about myself. Hi.
I think she pretty much summed that up. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Like how I talk to myself, what I think about myself, and how I can hype myself up, like how I can give myself some worth. So like not just the bad stuff, but the good stuff.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. I'm Sonia, I'm an addict, by the way.
Sonia.
So I agree that internal dialogue is the way that we talk to ourselves, the way that we think about ourselves, and oftentimes the things that we think and the things that we believe, we then follow that up with the actions that we take, right? Which then becomes the habits in our lives and the lifestyle that we create for ourselves. And so it all really starts, in my opinion, with the internal dialogue. And so tonight we're going to talk about the internal dialogue and share our experience on that, and then we'll go over some questions and go from there. All right. So I guess what we can do first is we'll all just kind of share a little bit of our experience with you. I don't know if there's a lot of new faces in here. Some of you guys haven't seen me before. So I'm just going to share a little bit of my story, and then we can sort of pass it around. And then we'll answer the questions for you guys. So to give you like a very briefly qualify of myself, I'm here, born and raised in Sarasota, Florida. I started using drugs when I was very young. What I know now that I didn't know then is that the drug use started because I was dealing with trauma. And back then, like, that was the solution, right? Like, that was the solution for my problems, but very quickly it became the problem because what I didn't know is that I was predisposed to addiction. Like, everybody in my family was an addict or an alcoholic, and I started at a young age, and like all of the red flags were there. I just didn't recognize that until it was way too late. By the time I realized I was an addict, stopping was not an option. And so, that led to a lot of consequences in my life. And I love that Yanira is here tonight because one of the consequences that I had was I lost custody of my children, and I wound up being incarcerated many times. And everybody in my life wanted nothing to do with me because of all of the things that I had done. And every time I come around, I stole from them. And so they didn't want me to come around no more. And I've been married for 16 years. I was estranged from my husband. And so it was just one thing after another, as they say, jails, institutions, and death, right? And so as you can imagine, the internal dialogue that I struggled with, like there were a lot of really bad things that I felt about myself and that I told myself and that emulated around the world around me because where it all started was right here. And so that's a little bit of my experience, and I will pass it over to Angela.
Thank you, Sonia. I'm Angela, I'm an addict. So pretty much the same thing. Like I had a lot of trauma in my life. I started using at a young age. My mom has been an addict my whole life. My dad was in prison for 15 years of my life. So like I was exposed to that type of lifestyle. And I didn't know how to cope with things. I didn't know how to deal with any of that. So I resorted to drugs. And it led me down a really dark path. Jail, abusive relationships. I guess I was homeless. I was couch surfing. So I didn't I didn't have a way to deal with my emotions, so I just wanted to cover them up. And that ultimately didn't help. So I have learned, though, that the problem is me, and that was my solution. But now I have different solutions today. And, you know, I struggled a lot with, like, you know, I wanted to fit in somewhere. I wanted to be liked. I wanted to, you know, I wanted everything that I couldn't get using drugs. And because of recovery, like, I don't have to try and be liked. I don't have to, you know, I don't have to do all those things that I tried to do in my addiction for my life to be good. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. Like, I don't need to use drugs anymore. And I'm glad I don't.
Nicole, alcoholic.
Hi, Nicole.
So very similar. Obviously, we all have lots in common, especially in recovery. We can all kind of identify with things. My story started very young age. I had all the isms. I just want to fit in. I have a hole I got to fill. Who's going to help me fill it? What substance can I put in my body that's going to make me feel comforted? You know, I grew up in a family. I had a mom and a dad. I have a younger brother. But I always felt like I was trying really hard to fit in. I was trying really hard to do everything to the best of my ability to be accepted by my mother. I was in a place of lack. I always believed that I did not have what I should have had, and that kept me in a place of always seeking. And I was always seeking to be better, always seeking to, if this person just puts me up at this pedestal, if I can just be everything to this person, then I don't have any problems. And it took me a long time to realize that that hole that I felt was, I was missing a connection. I was really missing that. And recovery has given me that connection because I didn't have a spiritual backing at all. I didn't even have real relationships. I had what in my mind was, I'm just gonna take care of you so I don't have to look at me. So my internal dialogue for a long part of my life, and still in pieces sometimes today, is always about, you're not good enough. And it was always, you don't have what you need to have to be successful. There's no way you deserve that. And my self-worth was just bottomed out. And with that self-worth being bottomed out, I had no spiritual help. I had no spiritual backing, as I said. So without both of those things, I was always just trying to fill this hole. So I found alcohol when I was 18, and it made me feel like I could do anything. So I did it for a long time, and I had a lot of rock bottoms, and I'm here today because I was chosen to live a different life, and I get to be here with all of you people, and I feel a part of because of this room, not because of the drinking and not because of the drugs, but because I found a home here. So that's my story.
My name's Beth. I'm an addict.
Beth.
I sort of felt like a lot of the negative self-talk that I struggled with, especially in very early recovery when I was first exposed to the rooms of Narcotics Anonymous and Alcoholics Anonymous, was that I didn't belong because, like, I wasn't bad enough, right? Like, I hadn't ever been to jail. I hadn't had any legal consequences. I didn't have children at the time. I didn't start using till a very late age, right, in comparison to most people. So that made me feel like I was excluded from the benefits that recovery had to offer me because, like, I hadn't gone down far enough. So, you know, if you hadn't started using until, like, a later age, or, like, you haven't had very many consequences, like, you're blessed. And the people in this room who have had those consequences wish that they could be in your position. So please don't allow that to exclude you from being in recovery and from taking advantage of the you know, the blessings that recovery has to offer. So, like, as far as how I grew up, I had, you know, a pretty stable home environment. I went to private school. I lost my mom when I was 12 years old. She had had, like, many years of a battle with cancer, had a stroke, like that just basically consumed our family for, like, half of my life until I was 12 when she passed away. And after she passed, I kind of not only, like, lost the mother figure in the home, right? Like, my dad just kind of, like, disconnected from me emotionally and didn't know what to do with the daughter. Like, oh my God, tampons and prom dresses and, like, all this stuff, right? He didn't know what to do. And that made me feel very separate from him and made me feel like, what have I done? Like, have I done something to make myself like unlovable? Am I like undesirable in some way? And that thinking pattern, that piece of negative self-talk, which started as a result of like this traumatic experience, right? Dealing with that trauma of the, of the emotional abandonment that I felt was happening in the home, created this dialogue, this like internal dialogue of like this negative self-talk, which led me to seek out validation from men, sex, drugs, like all of it, like money, and I just sought that everywhere else, but number one, through a higher power, number two, like just from myself, like being able to validate myself, knowing that like no matter what I look like, no matter how much money I have, like no matter what I feel like materially I've got going on, like I am a worthwhile human being because God sees me as such, So I think that like a lot of the stories that I heard in the beginning, I heard about like people were like, oh yeah, I was shooting up when I was 15 and, out like living in the streets and stuff. And I couldn't identify with that, but like, and that like excluded me from like taking advantage of the program of recovery that was being presented to me as a design for living. And that was the biggest hurdle in terms of like self-talk and getting through that stuff. But I'm so grateful that I finally like let that wall come down and I looked for the similarities rather than the differences. And I began to be able to like validate myself and see myself through God's eyes and see myself through like my friends' eyes, because like I see my friends in a way, like I love them, you know what I mean? I would never talk to them the way that I sometimes talk to myself. And so being able to see myself in that light as a result of my participation in a program of recovery has been like such a blessing. So that's all I have.
Thank you, guys. All right, so we're going to kind of go out of order with the questions, but what you guys have said and what you kind of led into leads to this question, I believe, which is, where do you think those inner voices come from, your past trauma or something else? And, just based on like what you guys just said, like sometimes we think that we're not good enough. Sometimes we think that we're not bad enough. We think that, we need to do more, we need to do less. And like nothing is good enough. We always feel like we need to be doing something else other than what we're doing. And I know for me, like when I was younger, and I think this is really important, like words are very powerful, and the words that we say to each other and to our children and that were said to us, if you don't have children, to your friends, whatever, like those words carry weight, and sometimes they get stuck inside of us. And that's what happened to me when I was younger, like I remember there were certain people in my life that told me that I was too fat, or that, I still have a complex about that stuff today, or told me that I was a junkie or a drug addict and a piece of POS. I won't cuss on camera, but and those things stuck with me for a while. And so going into my recovery journey, I had to really go in and dig deep and work on those things. And I really like what you said about God, because I think that's what started to change that inner dialogue for me. And so if you want to just like follow up the question of where you think the root of it is, and how did that impact you coming into recovery?
So for me, like when I was young, I got taken away from my mom a few times. And I lived with my third grade teacher, which that was weird. And then I lived with my family in Connecticut, and like, so it was my mom's cousin, but I still called her my aunt because respect. So I had all of my cousins up there, but I was still considered the summer child. I wasn't part of the family. I was always excluded. Like my cousins would make fun of me on the bus and be like, your mom uses drugs. And like, it was just always like, I was always made fun of and excluded from the family. And like, then when I was like 13, when I started smoking weed, they knew that. So they definitely excluded me. I haven't talked to them in 15 years almost. And it's like, I felt like, I just felt excluded. I didn't feel a part of. My life was, I was moving around so much. I wasn't in a stable environment. So I just didn't feel good enough. I didn't feel welcome. I didn't feel good about myself. But like, I'm so blessed like that I gave this a chance and I wanted a new life because I feel welcome. I feel welcome in the rooms of recovery, no matter where it is. I choose to go to NA now, and I feel welcome wherever I go. Like, I see people out at the store that I know, and like, we're like, hey, and like, you know, whatever. Like, everybody is so welcoming, and like, God, he accepts me now, like, for who I am. Like, actually, I just found out the other day that I was baptized Catholic, and I thought it was something else. I mean, that has nothing to do with it, but like, my family lied to me. Like, I had no, so like, my identity was like, I had no idea, like, my identity was effed up. Like, I had no idea who I was. I didn't know my dad. So that, I feel like that was the root of it. It's like just not knowing who I was, feeling excluded, not having a family. But now I do. I have a family. Yeah.
You know, I think it's a combination of things. I think it's for sure, the number one thing for me is I didn't have a spiritual foundation. I can honestly say that my higher power, I did not have one. I put everything else above, but not a higher power. And then my experiences, the experiences of trying to fit in, trying to be accepted, it was a constant battle. What mask am I going to wear today? What group am I going to fit in with? Where do I belong? Constantly having to deal with that, the anxiety of that, the playing multiple roles. And then, you know, the guilt from the decisions I made because of the habits that I built to protect myself so I could be somebody that I thought you wanted me to be. Like, that plays a big factor in the inner dialogue that I had for a very long time, because before coming into recovery, I didn't know who I was. I never took the time to figure it out. I just wanted to be what you wanted, what Susie around the corner. I wanted what Jim had. I wanted what Jackie had, but I didn't know what Nicole wanted. And now I get that opportunity to build that foundation, and that has helped tremendously in my recovery. And having the belief in something bigger than myself, where I don't have to rely on me to figure it out. I don't have to manipulate. I don't have to lie. I don't have to force things. You know, there's even bouts today where I never would have thought this before, but I have feelings where I'm like, I don't care what you think. And that's beautiful. Like, honestly, that's beautiful. When I have that feeling, I'm just like, I don't know where that came from. Well, we know where it comes from. But I am so blessed to have that today. And it just comes in waves. It doesn't always stick with me, but I'm grateful for that feeling. And I wouldn't have got that feeling without doing the work, without finding a higher power, without getting a sponsor, without talking to other women, without opening up myself up to the possibility of living a different life, because I didn't know what it looked like.
Thank you.
My name's Beth. I'm an addict.
Hey, Beth.
I love what both of you just touched on, because I think for like my whole life long, I just lacked identity. I just sought to be like whatever I thought you would accept me as, not like presenting an authentic version of myself that I felt like God loved, that I felt like my family loved, because I have this, like, because of the abandonment issues that popped up in childhood and stuff, like I have this like acute like hyper fixation about like rejection and stuff. Like I am so hyper aware of what you're thinking about me, that I'm like, let me just change myself to make sure that like this version of me like does not offend you, right? Recovery has allowed me to get to know myself on a more personal level, in terms of like recognizing that, you know, I did not have a spiritual foundation, that now today I can see myself the way that God sees me. And if God accepts me, like, who am I not to accept myself, you know? And if my friends can accept me and my family can accept me today, who am I not to accept myself? But like, it's been a struggle. It's been a journey, like, going through, you know, eating disorder stuff, going through my addiction, like body image issues. And I mean, if anyone in this room has like dealt with that stuff, it's like, it's a mind fuck, just like addiction is, you know what I mean? Like all of that stuff, it's so all consuming, you know, and I can apply like the principles that I know work today to like all areas of my life. Like, it's not just about the substances today. It's about so much more than that. You know, actually my sponsor told her story at a house meeting last night, and she was talking about, you know, how blessed would we be if it were just the substances that were the problem, because then we put them down and it's like, oh yeah, everything everything's great. No, that was not how it was for me. That is not my experience. I've never met anyone in the rooms, not a real addict or alcoholic, who has had that experience. Because if we are real addicts and alcoholics, like, the problem's here. It's not with the substances. And so I'm so grateful that I have a different like foundation on which I'm building today that has God at the center of it, and people around me who can help me identify the lies that like I still tell to myself, like that voice inside me that says like, you're not good enough, you're not pretty enough, you don't have enough money, like you don't do enough, you aren't enough, like all of those things. Like God has put these safeguards in place, like in terms of women being around me, that help me sort through that stuff, and I'm forever grateful.
All right, thank you. And so the next question is, how did you turn that negative self-talk around, and do you still struggle with it today? And I know for me, I really relate so much to what you guys just said. I mean, when I was in my addiction, I spent so much time, you become a chameleon when you're in addiction or when you're struggling with alcoholism, because wherever you are, you become that version, or in that environment, you fit in. You have to, it's a survival skill. And strangely enough, I found recovery through it's actually not strange that happened, but I found recovery by going to jail. That part wasn't strange. But strangely enough, I finally, for the first time in my life, when I arrived in the jail and I wound up in a place where there were other people that would bring in meetings, thankfully, Sarasota County Jail has a recovery pod where people come in and bring in meetings, because when I finally arrived there and I heard people that were sharing a message, it was such like a life-altering experience for me, because I realized that I wasn't alone and that there were other people like me and that there was hope. And I think that's really where it started to turn around for me. And I really also love that you guys talked about identity, because when you're constantly in that process of changing who you are to fit into your environment, you lose yourself along the way. And one of the greatest things that happened when I was in the jail is that somebody told me that I am who God says I am, and I can be the woman that He created me to be. And so I went on a search to figure out what that is. And today I'm still figuring out what that is. But I have found in the Word, you can find literal answers for that. God says that I'm fearfully and wonderfully made, that He had a purpose for me before the earth was even formed, and a hope and a future for me. And I can build on those things, right, and try to find out what God's will for me. But do I still struggle with it today? Yes, I do. It still shows up in different ways in my life, not the way that it used to, but I'm still growing, and I'm glad that I'm still growing. I don't want to ever really arrive, because I feel like when we arrive, we're done. It's time to go home. But for now, I'm okay with continuing.
Thank you. So, this is something, like, I still have that internal dialogue, like I work in a restaurant, I'm a server, so then when I have weird interactions with people, I'm like, was it me? Did I do something? I'm like, what just happened? So I just am like, no, it wasn't me. Like, people are weird, I'm just being honest, you know what I mean? But just okay, it wasn't me, it's not me. I'm doing the best that I can. And that goes for anything. I'm doing the best that I can. How do I turn that negative self-talk around? I just tell myself, you're okay. You can do this. You're weird too. I don't know. I just kind of, I don't know. But I tell, so something that I started doing was, with the help of the women in my life, I started writing stuff on my mirror in my bathroom with a dry erase marker. It says, I'm worth it. I'm beautiful. I'm loved. And I just see that every day. And just know, seeing that, it starts my day off, and I just repeat that to myself throughout the day when I have those little moments of I just did something wrong, or I messed something up, or I had an attitude, or I'm worth it, I'm okay, I'm loved, I just try my hardest to and I notice it, I recognize it, I'm aware of it today, before. I was not aware of it. Like, I would tell myself all the time, like, you suck, you ain't shit, like, whatever, you know, like, and something that Mr. Rick said when I was in the Salvation Army was, he was like, you know, he said something, and I can't, without like, I already cussed on here, but he said, like, he said it in the nicest way possible, but he said, you ain't shit. And my sponsor tells me that too, like, you are, but like, you're not the, I don't know how to say it.
Center of the universe.
Yeah, like, it's not all about me always. And I'm not, like, thank you. Like, I'm not the center of the universe. I take other people's feelings into consideration without denying myself that, like, other people's feelings are valid. My feelings are valid. It's okay that I feel the way that I do sometimes. And it's okay. It's okay to not be okay sometimes. So, like, I still go through it, but, like, I have ways to get through it. And something that was said last night and that I've heard and that, you know, I really like is grow through what you go through. And I'm growing every day. It never stops. I learn new things about myself every day. So, yeah, I'm a work in progress. Yeah.
1000% still go through it. So what's beautiful though about when it comes up today, and this is the big piece, is forgiveness and grace, because years were spent, majority of my life was spent in that mindset, in that way of thinking, in those habits, in those solutions. I spent an eternity in those behaviors. So I have to give myself some grace. So when the moments do come up, when I'm talking shit to myself, right? I have the awareness. I love that you said that. I have the awareness, and I can then reframe it, right? Because they're just old stories. I don't live that way today. I'm not doing those same things today. I'm not hurting people today. I'm the person growing into the woman that God wants me to be. I'm still trying to figure out what he wants for my life, but I don't have to have all the answers, and I don't have to beat myself up if I slip. As long as I don't drink or drug, I'm in a good place.
Thank you.
I think for me, and I touched on this like a couple weeks ago, it's like I learned very early on that the way to stop like all the mess that's going on up here is to get out of myself by doing service. And so like what comes to mind like right now as I'm kind of like reading through that question number 3 is like I don't want to think less of myself. I just want to think of myself less, you know? And so if I'm like obsessing about something, either, you know, oh, I'm not good enough. I'm, you know, not doing this, not doing that. I don't have this, I don't have that. Like all of that stuff just seems to like quiet down when I can, number one, identify that it's happening, because like that's the first part. I can't do anything about a problem that I am not aware of. And then number 2, to just like see if there's anyone around me, because like I live in a house full of women, right? There's always somebody around who needs something, got something going on, you know? Wendy. No, I'm just kidding, Wendy, I love you. No, but seriously, like I am grateful for the women in my life who are around and who I have the ability to like be of service to today, because like people did that for me in early recovery, and if I can turn around and do that to other people, so there's like a two-side benefit, right? Like it helps that person with whatever they've got going on, and then it helps me because like it quiets down in my mind. And like just going back to what I had, you know, touched on a couple of weeks ago, which is that, you know, like when I get out of myself and I do service, like self-esteem comes from doing esteemable acts. If I'm like changing the narrative, like Nicole said, and I'm looking to flip the script on whatever negative internal dialogue is going on, why don't I do something nice for somebody else that makes me feel good about myself and the things that I'm doing, right? So being of service is always like has always been key for me, like especially this time around when I realized like how important it is, like and how true it is that like I cannot keep anything that I have without giving it away. That's it.
Beautiful. That was beautiful. And that leads right to the next question. Oh, okay. The next question is, many of us feel like we're not doing good enough, even when we're doing everything right. Do you struggle with that? And if so, how do you cope with it? So I love what you said about esteemable acts, because that's what I was thinking about too. Also, and what you said about like not drinking or doing drugs. If you fuck up everything for the day, but you did not put a substance in your body, you are doing amazing. It takes time to learn a new way of life. And so if you didn't pick up today, you are a miracle, you are a success, you are doing an amazing job. Keep going, and tomorrow will be a better day. But I think that there should only be like 2 times when we look back, right? Number 1 is to see how far we've come. And number 2 is to do step work. You should look back when you're doing step work so that you can have some awareness of your patterns and then be able to change them. But that is a way to move forward, essentially. But, you know, if you feel like you're not doing good enough, look at how far you've come. Like if you're sitting here right now, chances are that you have either been arrested, been sleeping on the streets, like been lost in addiction or alcoholism, you've had some shit happen to you, right? That's why we're here. But you're not there anymore. And so that, I think, alone is a way to show like how far we've come and that we are doing good enough. We're doing the best that we can. And sometimes the best that we can is good enough. And if I feel like I don't know what I'm supposed to do next, like I just look down at my feet and say, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be right now in this moment. And until I know what the next step is, I'm just going to stay right here. But also, I just want to touch on what you just said a minute ago, Beth, too, because I think we just need to say it over and over and over again. The best way to get outside of yourself is to lose yourself in service to others. There's always another sick and suffering addict or alcoholic who is looking for help or a hug or a listening ear or show up at a service commitment or help out at the back, or there's always something that can be done to help somebody else. And so if you're struggling with something or you're struggling with your self-worth, doing esteemable acts is a way to overcome that. And I know for me, like just doing the next right thing, one thing at a time, putting my head down on the pillow at night and saying I did the best that I could has literally changed who I am as a person.
So, you know, I did just say, like, I'm doing the best that I can, but sometimes I feel like I fall short. And, you know, I talk about that with the women in my life today. I'm honest about it. I talk to Beth all the time, and, like, I just had a conversation with her, like, you know, and I'm just going to be completely transparent with you guys. Like, I've been in a halfway house for a year and a half. I've been house leader for almost a year. And I have goals, like I'm working a lot, I'm trying to save money so I can get my own place, and I kind of feel like I've been falling a little short at the house, not being there. But, you know, I told Beth that, and she was like, you're doing a good job. And I was like, you know what, like I can't beat myself up, because I'm still there, I still talk to them, like I'm there for them when they need me, and I just try not to beat myself up, because I want to move on in life too. And I want to help other women move on in life. And I'm doing the best that I can in that sense. So sometimes I still do struggle with it. But like I said, I talk about it. I'm honest about it. I really don't hide anything anymore. Like sometimes I'm too honest. Yeah, little too honest. But yeah, that's how I cope with it, is just being honest and talking about my feelings.
Speaking of honesty, so I'll be honest here. I have struggled multiple times with feeling like I should be way further than I am. And a lot of that stems from, I feel like I wasted a lot of time in addiction, right? And I'm sure everybody has had those feelings. And today, how I get through those feelings is, first of all, it's a blessing to be sober. It's a blessing to be chosen to walk this road, to help other people, to do all of it. And I have to remember that. And then I also have to remember that I'm not on my own timeline. If anything, I'm on God's timeline. And this is where he wants me to be in this moment. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. My feet are where I'm planted, where they're supposed to be. And I don't have to worry or stress about what the next step is. So when moments that I feel like I'm not doing good enough, I just have to look at the facts. The facts are, I have a roof over my head. I'm not using. I do service work. I help sponsees. I go to meetings. I do my daily work. I show up to my job. I don't miss work. I don't call out sick. God knows how many times I used to call out sick. And I just have to look at those, yes, sick. sick. I look at the facts today, and I have to remember that I am doing a good job because the facts are there. They're right there on paper. There's money in my bank account. There's food. My dog's happy. My dad's ecstatic. Like, my dad doesn't even drink anymore. My boss doesn't even drink anymore. I have to remember that I'm an example to other people. Like, I'm doing a good job. So those are the things that I look at, the facts, and remember that where my feet are is where I was supposed to be, and I'm not on my timeline.
My name's Beth. I'm an addict.
Hey, Beth.
So two things. Like, number one, what Angela touched on is just like honesty and transparency with the women who are around me. The biggest thing for me is being able to identify like who's talking to me, right? Because like if it's a kind word and I feel like it's empowering and loving and understanding and compassionate, like that's probably my higher power talking to me, right? If it's like you're a piece of shit and you suck and like you're the worst and like what are you doing? You're not far enough, like you haven't made enough progress. Like that's probably like the number one, like a trauma response, or number two, like the voice of my disease, which is the disease of addiction that we all suffer from. And being able to like identify that, it comes over time because like my disease, it talks to me in my own voice. It wants to confuse me. It wants to make me believe these things. And so I have to like ask for help. I have to like recruit the women around me to be like, what's going on? Like, this is what I'm thinking about. Like, is this true? Or like, what's happening here, right? And they're like, oh no, like you're actually doing really great, right? And I trust them. Like on my very worst days where I feel like I couldn't feel worse about myself if I tried, right? I trust the women in my life to tell me the truth, to help me identify what the voice of my disease is and where my higher power's love is shining through. And like, I bank on that. Like, that is everything to me. Like, I have to have women in my corner who I can trust with that stuff because like, I don't always, I don't know if you guys knew this, but like, we don't think clearly all the time. It comes with time and like, being able to recognize like the two distinct voices, like the one that comes from my higher power and then the one that comes from my disease, and being able to recognize those things doesn't happen overnight. So like I have to recruit that help, and like that's what's available to me in the program, is that I get people who are willing to assist me in identifying those things and helping me break down those that like inclination to like keep things to myself, that like shame-based, guilt-based, remorse-based like silence that like I stayed in for years because I just didn't want to talk about it, right? Today, like no matter how I'm feeling, like I'm gonna tell you. And there are like 3 women in my life who like I'm telling everything. They know everything that's going on in my life, and like that has just been gold to me. And then the second thing is like I always think about when I feel like I'm not far enough, or I feel like I haven't done enough, or I don't have enough, or anything like that. What always comes to mind is like this quote that I saw on this little meme this one time, and it was like, gratitude makes what we have enough. Like it just is enough. Like if I can look at everything through a lens of gratitude, then like what may not have been enough for me a year ago, like it's enough for me today. And I can look at that and say like, yeah, like I want to work towards more, but I can also be grateful for what I have right in this moment. So that helps me.
I love it. And everything that I just heard you guys say speaks to how important it is to get connected in recovery, because when we're around other people, they help us to navigate through those things. And also, just plugging this in, this is why it's so important to go to 90 meetings in 90 days. That's why they tell you that, because when you're going to those meetings, you meet people and you show up at the same meetings, and then you get connected, and then the people in recovery for me, and what I just heard both or all three of you say, is the women in recovery save your ass. I mean, there are times in my life where I just am not doing step work or I'm not in communication with my higher power, but the women in my life hold me down during those times. So the next question is, what is something that you believe about yourself today that you thought you would never believe? For me, something that I believe and know about myself today that I thought I would never be is a good mom. You know, after losing custody of my kids and just putting them through everything that I put them through during my addiction, because my kids are old enough to remember all of it. Like, they saw Johns coming in and out, they saw paraphernalia, they've seen me overdose. Like, I've put them in some really bad situations. But today, I've been able to make a living amends to them through my recovery. And I really believe that I'm a good mom today. Right before I came here, I took my son, he's gonna kill me for saying this, but I took my son on his first date, and he got to go meet a little girl at the park, and
Oh my gosh! Oh, so tender.
yeah, and I get to show up for those things today, and those things mean the world to me. And because of recovery and the women in my life who taught me how to be a mom and to be a friend and everything I am today, I can really say that and believe that about myself.
Something that I believe about myself today that I never thought I would is that I'm worth it. That I can be happy without using a substance, putting a substance in my body. That I can be okay when I'm not okay. Yeah, that's pretty much it. That I'm worth it. Yeah.
I'm gonna go with strong, and not just physically or anything like that, but I say that because I'm strong enough to stand on my own 2 feet today. I'm strong enough to believe in myself. I'm strong enough to help other people. And I'm strong enough to be there for people when they need it most, and not just be what's the thing? I'm not a drain. I'm a fountain today. John Maxwell says that in one of his books, and I just identify with that so much, because it's like I used to take so much, and today I'm strong enough to be somebody that gives.
I would say I'm capable of doing hard things. That's, I just never thought that I, was capable of recovery in any type of way, because, I had basically just put forth, a half effort, for years and years and years, and I was like, this is getting me nowhere, this sucks, I hate recovery, and then I realized, oh, I can do the things that are being asked of me, right? Which are literally really simple. Go to meetings, get a sponsor, work step work, find a higher power that works for me, and get connected with women who believe in me and want to help me in my recovery, Those things seem so impossible to me, at a certain point in my life. But today, I can see that after putting in some footwork, with God's help, that there is nothing that I cannot do, nothing. And I feel so blessed to have that mindset, because it means that whatever comes up, I can practice faith over fear, no matter what happens in my life, whether it's a financial issue or a breakup or a loss of a job or whatever comes up for me, right? I can navigate through those things, because I remember to myself how hard it was in the beginning for me to just get 1 minute clean. 1 minute I was in such a state of obsession, right, and compulsion, and I just couldn't even put it down. And then those first couple of days when I went into the Sally, I was just white knuckling it, right? And if I can make it through that, I can make it through anything. There is nothing that I can't do, and nothing. And I feel very strongly about that. And it's my hope for everyone that they feel that strongly about themselves, that there's something inside of us, for me it's my higher power, there's something inside of me that gives me the strength to move forward when I never thought that I could, to do a task that seemed impossible at one time, to climb a mountain that like years ago, like I could have never scaled or whatever. Whatever. That's it. That's it. I've had it.
All right, final words. So we have a whole nother list of questions, but we don't have time for that. So if you could say something.
Paul will kick us out. He won't let us go over.
We'll save it for next time. Okay, if you could say something to somebody who's struggling with that inner dialogue right now, what would you say to them? And I will say just very short and sweet, let us love you until you learn to love yourself.
Short and sweet too. Don't beat yourself up. Give yourself grace. And if nobody's told you today, I love you and I'm proud of you.
You were chosen for a reason, and you're here to make a difference. So I believe in you, and I love you too.
Rome wasn't built in a day. Time takes time.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you guys so much. Don't get up yet, but thank you so much. I've done that before, and people start leaving. I'm like, well, wait. Okay. But thank you guys so much for listening to us share our experience tonight. And we have a wonderful way of closing. What do we do?
Go help someone.